Welcome to the 4 Dimensions of Extraordinary Leadership course. I'm so glad you've joined us. In this course, I'll share with you the framework that I believe is essential for you to thrive as a leader. Whether you're a CEO of a major corporation, maybe you've just stepped into a management role, or you're seeking to grow your influence with your family or peers, these 4 dimensions will equip you to lead in a healthy, God-honoring way. At the end of each video, I'll give you a few questions for reflection, which are great either for personal reflection or group discussion. So let's get started. I'm fascinated by extraordinary leaders. And you know them when you see them, because they stand out, they get your attention. And it's not that they're always in the spotlight, that would be kind of missing the point. But extraordinary leaders are faithfully leading in their place of influence, whether high profile or in seeming obscurity, but with such depth of purpose and sincere intentionality that has significant effects on those they lead. See, extraordinary leaders call others to their extraordinary best, and they show up in all different types of settings. They can be seen in corporations or mom and pop businesses. They might be beloved football coaches or drama instructors. Extraordinary leaders in my life have been people like Bonnie, the owner of the ice cream shop that I worked at in high school, or my great uncle Tom, who taught me piano and gave me my first opportunity to perform on stage. And then there was Greg, an executive at a record company who gave this 20-year-old wide-eyed kid her dream job. Vocation is irrelevant, but well-stewarded influence is the essential differential. By definition, extraordinary means going beyond what is usual, regular, or customary, exceptional to a very marked extent, rare, uncommon, and unique. And every one of those words and phrases makes me exclaim, yes, I want to be that. I want to lead, guide, and direct others in a way that is unusual, exceptional, rare, uncommon, and unique. So how do we become extraordinary leaders? What type of discipline is involved? What activities are necessary? And what choices does one need to make? And these questions are difficult to sort out, and I know that it's a rare person who is a truly extraordinary leader. Because great leadership is rare because it takes work. It takes intentionality. It requires sacrifice. It takes resolve. It involves some heartache, some disappointments, and mistakes. It requires apologies. And it entails a daily dose of humility. It means relentless growth and frequent failure. See, extraordinary leadership isn't easy, but it is possible. And when it emerges, it leads others to accomplish extraordinary things as well. If you're an aspiring extraordinary leader like me, you know that leadership is hard. It's a difficult calling and responsibility. And if I finish my life and I haven't left a mark or made an impact that was significant to another person's life, I don't think I'll be content with that. It's my holy discontent, that term we use to describe the deep passion within us that moves us to make a difference. My holy discontent is to be an extraordinary leader. And I want to jump out of my skin inspired when I see an extraordinary leader in action. And I kind of want to go into hiding and never emerge again when I fail remarkably in critical leadership moments. So I want to study, learn, grow, and develop as a leader because I believe that great leadership is essential. It's necessary. So this search for extraordinary leadership was born from this unquenchable passion to be a better leader. As I began to find myself in more and more leadership environments, I became increasingly aware of my inadequacies and my inconsistencies as a leader. And while I certainly had strengths that allowed me to lead in the first place, I also had some glaring inadequacies. And I could either choose to mask my weaknesses, or I could do some soul searching and study great leaders to identify what was holding me back from truly being extraordinary. And while I quickly gravitated to studying the lives of historical leaders and biblical examples, extraordinary emerged for me in the most common of these places. Perhaps I thought I'd discovered this never before identified extraordinary leader who would radically change my view of leadership. I did find an example that radically changed my view of leadership, but I found it in one of the most fundamental elements of my faith, In the Gospel of Mark, chapter 12, Jesus was being challenged with controversial questions about taxes and resurrection. And the final question posed to him was, which commandment is the most important of all? And Jesus responded with a fundamental biblical truth known as the Shema, or more commonly understood as the Great Commandment. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind, and with all your strength. And then he proceeded to give those questioning him the second greatest commandment. Love your neighbor as yourself. See, the Shema, or the Great Commandment, I believe has enormous implications for us as leaders. This is where extraordinary is found. Within the Great Commandment is the model for extraordinary leadership. And the more I've studied and I've read about leadership, the more formulas I've tried, the more strategies I've created, the more I've found myself coming back to these original commandments of Jesus. See, when Jesus asked us to love God with all of our heart, our soul, our mind, and our strength, he was essentially saying that we should love God with all of ourselves, with everything in us. And when he says, love your neighbor as yourself, again, the implication is to love with all of who you are. And so when I consider my life as a leader, it means leading with all of who I am for the benefit of God and others. Leadership requires all of me, my heart, my soul, my mind, and my strength. And to not give all of me would be to shortchange God and others of what God has given me. We can't lead without our heart. We can't lead without our mind. We can't lead without our soul, and we can't lead without our strength. We're kind of integrated, messy, complicated humans, and when we learn that leading from all four of these dimensions is essential, we free ourselves to lead more fully. I believe you can be extraordinary. I believe you have the potential to develop in heart, soul, mind, and strength and live out your leadership in ways that truly change the trajectory of not only your life, but also the lives of those you lead. It's a heavy calling, it's a weighty responsibility, but I believe every leader has the potential to go from ordinary to extraordinary. You aspire to be a leader because you want to make a difference. You want to influence change and you want to make a mark. And I believe you can. Today, I want you to consider what extraordinary leadership looks like. Notice when you see it in others and pay attention to when you see glimpses of it in yourself. If you have a copy of my book, The 4 Dimensions of Extraordinary Leadership, take the assessment on pages 8 through 11. And then here are some questions for further reflection or group discussion. Number 1, when are you leading from your extraordinary best? Number 2, why do you think extraordinary leadership matters? And number 3, what do you want to be different in your leadership?